おはようございます。日本語の教室のサムです。よろしくお願いします。今日は20、ごめん。今日は2020年。今日は2020年の9月の20日です。今日は2020年9月20日です。Okay. You may be aware of the fact that I just said the date. I said today is September 20th, 2020. 2020 is2020年。2020年。2020年。Okay. Nen, of course, means year. 9月。9月。So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. But it's not 9月, it's 9月. So 9月 is an exception. And I said that it's the 20th. I mentioned before that the first 10 days of the month use the native Japanese numbers, except the first day of the month is called Tsuitachi. 9月1日 is September 1st. 1日 9月2日、3日、4日、5日、6日、7日、7日、etc. But the 20th is another exception. The 20th is called Hatsuka. Hatsuka. And also Hatsuka. I think that's good enough for now. The 20th of any month is called Hatsuka. Very strange. Obviously, the Japanese used to count up to 20 in their native numbers, as the Koreans still do. All of these parallels between these languages is fascinating. Nobody wants to claim that the one language is related to the other, but it seems there are too many parallels to ignore. At any rate, 今日は2020年の9月、20日ですね。20日。今日は20日です。日曜日です。日曜日です。In this lesson, I think we'll get to the days of the week. Today is Sunday, which is 日曜日。日曜日。日曜日。Hopefully you have your notebooks ready, and you've already been able to write down 日曜日。日曜日。Okay. I'm going to be speaking quite a bit of Japanese today. Just listen carefully. I will try to repeat myself as much as possible. Of course, I will be injecting a little bit of English from time to time. じゃあ今日はちょっと動詞の話をしたかったんですね。動詞の話をします。今日は動詞の話します。話。You remember 話, right? 今日は、later I'll tell you if you don't remember. 今日は動詞の話します。話をします。今日は動詞の話をします。今日は動詞の話をします。今日は動詞の話。動詞。動詞。動詞は何ですか？動詞は何ですか？これは何ですか？これは何ですか？これはコップです。これはコップです。これは何ですか？これは何ですか？これは何ですか？これはセロテープ、セロテープです。セロテープです。I think it's called セロテープ。セロテープ。マジックテープか。とにかく、これはテープですね。これはテープです。これは何ですか？これは何ですか？これはノートです。ノート。ノート。So, notebook in Japanese is noto. They don't say notebook, they say note with a long O. note. これはノートです。じゃあ、これは何ですか？カップは物を飲むための道具なんです。カップは物を飲むための道具です。ものですね。はい。じゃあ、it doesn't matter what I just said. 動詞は何ですか？動詞は何ですか？動詞は verb です。動詞は verb です。英語で verb と言います。英語で verb と言います。フランス語で verb と言います。フランス語で verb と言います。中国語で動詞と言うんですね。動詞。中国語で動詞と言います。スペイン語で何と言いますか？スペイン語で何と言いますか？わかりません。わかりません。I don't know. わかりません。わかる？わかります。わかりません。じゃあ今日は動詞の話をします。動詞の話をします。Today I'm going to be talking about verbs. 動詞、動詞、動詞の話をします。これは動詞です。ちょっとその後はちょっと動詞に関する話をしますけれども、その前にちょっと書き方に関する。OK。じゃあこれは何ですか？これは何ですか？ Now you can see here, I've written everything in hiragana, and you can see the selection candidate that I have. I can choose to put in a kanji. これは何ですか? I think traditionally, before the word processor, people probably wouldn't put the kanji in there. So I'm going to choose not to put the kanji in there today. The kanji does help to break up the sentence a little bit. これは, you can see the これは, and then the 何ですか? Oh my God. That's classical Chinese. We don't want to use that one. We'll go ahead and go with this one. これは何ですか? これは何ですか? これはコップです。これはコップです。これはコップです。And see how the katakana also breaks the sentence up. これはコップです。And that's a 小さいつ. It looks pretty big. And see how it's easy to get the つ and the し mixed up, but there's a little bit of a hook right here. So anyway, that's コップ. これはコップです. And see how it's entered into the Japanese language. All I did was type it in hiragana. The software automatically switched it into katakana. That's why I like typing with a word processor so much. Okay. じゃあ次は次は And look, I have a choice to do a kanji. And that kanji is acceptable. But I can also do this. 次 with the 点 次は何というの？次は何をしようか。これは何ですか？これはコップです。動詞は何ですか？ And we're going to write this in, I'd like to write this in Romaji because we don't really know what it is. So I'd say do, and then I'm going to opt for my macron in there. Doshi, doshi. And we'll go back into the hiragana. Doshi wa nan desu ka? So you're saying, what is a verb? Or what is a doshi? Doshi wa nan desu ka? So this is a simple way to say, what does doshi mean? Okay? Or I could say, doshi wa, doshi wa, doshi wa, doshi wa, doshi, doshi wa, ego de nan to imasu ka? And look, it changed into the verb. And we talked about that verb last time. The verb is you, which means to say or to call. So, ego de wa nan to imasu ka? And notice this to here. This to is a particle. It can be used to mean and, but in this case, it's used to join a quotation area. It means that that's spoken. So when you imasu, you're going to speak something. So, of course, the quotation marks are never put in. I've just done that to illustrate that this to joins something that's spoken to the word for speak. So whenever you're using speak, you're required to use to. Doshi wa ego de, te de taberu, te de taberu. Indojin wa yoku te de tabemasu. Indojin wa yoku te de tabemasu. Indojin wa yoku te de tabemasu. So, I'm just doing this to illustrate the power of the parsing software. All of these words have been parsed. I put in a string of Romaji. It's translated it into hiragana. But not only that, it has parsed the sentence so that it knows that I've said an Indian. And it's written that out for me. So I'm going to go ahead and hit the space bar, and that's going to change it. I actually, rather than hit the space bar, oh gosh, I'm not sure how to do the return key. Return. Okay, we're not. Anyway, I could have just hit the return key rather than the space bar. This means that I may want to go through my options. Oh my God, that's the Chinese way to write Indo. And the Japanese never write it that way. So I have all sorts of choices here. And I could have just left it, and it goes back. So I can just, and that one I accept. So now I can go through this one, and I can do the same thing. Hit the space bar. And Jin is written this way too. It has an entirely different meaning. Okay, so there's several ways to write Jin. Okay, but of course I want to write it this way. So that's the way. So I'm going to accept the whole thing. Enter. Okay, and the line goes away. I could have just put a period there too. And you notice that the period is a circle. And in Japanese, they call it a maru. Maru. So that's a word you need to put into your vocabulary list. Maru. This is maru. It means yes. This is batsu. It means no. Batsu is an X. Bats. Okay. Maru is yes. Batsu is no. Okay. Maru. There's so many maru. Maru maru. I'm going to tell you a story about maru maybe in the next lesson if I think about it. Okay. Indo-jin. Indo, katakana de. Jin wa hito desu ne. Hito. Indo no hito. Indo no hito. Indo no hito means a person from India. If you want to say Indian, you say Indo-jin. If you want to say a person from India, you say Indo no hito. Indo-jin wa yoku. Now, yoku means often, and it's the word yoi. So I did have the choice. I didn't go through this one. I have the choice of leaving it this. This is the normal way to do it, but I could put a kanji in there, and look at the little dictionary pokes out. So it tells me, when do I want to use this word? When do I want to use this word? All of these are pronunciations for yoku. This one's an interesting one. I'm not going to get into it today, but it explains the difference between all of these words. If you want to take a screenshot of this, or better yet, go into the word processor and play with it yourself. Okay, so I could write it that way, yoku. And it comes from the adjective yoi, which means good, yoi, but which is usually pronounced e in normal everyday speech. Okay, yoku. In this case, it means often, frequently. Indo-jin wa yoku te de tabemasu. Now, the reason I wrote this sentence down, I wanted to illustrate the use of de. It's using the instrument of the hand. In Sanskrit grammar, it would be called the third case, the instrumental case. In Latin parlance, instrumental case. With the instrument of my hand, I eat. So with the instrument of English, ego de nanto imasu ka? And I went through a list of things to illustrate this. Hopefully you picked it up. So you need to listen, when you're listening to people talk, you need to listen to the context very carefully. And if you get part of the context, then you can kind of interpret what they're saying, even if you don't understand. So, Indo doshi wa eigo de nanto imasu ka? Furansu go de nanto imasu ka? Chugoku go. And look, all of my candidates are there. I'm going to put a space bar and, oh no. How did that happen? I can also use my mouse to select the first candidate. Okay. Chugoku go de. And Spain go de. Spain go no ikata. Ikata, the way of saying it in Spanish, wakarimasen. Wakarimasen. Okay. And all of my choices are in, I could go through and look, there's the dictionary again. It explains there's different kanji. The wakaru, the first one is the one that's used most frequently. In this case, I could use the third one, but we're not going to get into that now. We're going to stick with the most commonly used one, which is perfectly acceptable. Or I can just leave it in hiragana, wakaru. And the verb is wakaru, 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 wakaru. Understand, wakarimasen, wakarimasu. Wakarimasen deshita. Wakarimashita ka? Wakarimashita ka? So I can often ask you, wakarimashita ka? Did you understand? Or since I'm a teacher talking to other people, talking to you, I can say wakatta ka. This is in everyday talk, wakatta ka. But you never say wakatta ka to me. You always say wakarimashita ka. You have to be more polite to me. Okay, so back to this lesson here. Today we are looking at verbs, and this is the way you write verb in kanji. And notice the furigana up there. Furigana, doshi, doshi. Okay, and I wanted to gradually, I'm just going to be introducing kanji as we go along. So I wanted to introduce this kanji to you, do and shi. I'll talk about both of them. Notice, both of these kanjis can be divided into two parts. Both of these kanjis can be divided into two parts. So we have hidarigawa and migigawa. Hidarigawa to migigawa. Remember? Hidari te, migi te. Hidari, migi. Hidari, migi. これは I don't want to do either one. Oh, it doesn't give me the chance to go back. I hit the escape key too many times. ごめんね. ごめん. ちょっと technical problems あります. Okay, we'll discard the ink annotations. We'll go back. I wanted to use the pointer. ちょっと待って。はい。じゃあ、これ。どうなった？ pointer. Pen. I choose the pen. じゃあ、左側に丸をつけます。丸を書いています。これは丸です。丸をつけます。丸を2つつけます。丸を2つ。1つ2つ。左側、右側。So, many kanji can be divided into two parts. And the shi is the same way. In the shi, we have the hidarigawa, and the migigawa. Doshi. And one side provides a clue to the pronunciation of the kanji, and the other side provides a clue to the meaning of the kanji. And in the case of do, the meaning is on the migigawa. Migigawa の方はちょっとその意味を表します。はい。Okay. So, and that is 力, power. 力, power. And we're denoting the idea of a movement, something that's moving. So it's moving through power. And remember, this is the same as the katakana for ka. And, the katakana for ka, the hiragana has the line right here. Katakana has no line, but this is also the kanji for power. Chikara. Okay. This is the pronunciation value. We won't get into that, but it's a little complicated character. But by now you're beginning to see this character for its individual parts. On the shi, we have what is called the talk radical. This is the radical. In this character, the right-hand side is the radical. On this character, the left-hand side is the radical. The radical is the way that it's classified. And everything that has this radical has to do with talking. So a shi is a word. We have hanashi. I think there's go right here, nihongo. So this is just a little bit about the fundamentals of kanji that I wanted to get into. Okay, my pointer's back. And, 次は? So, 動物. So this is doshi. Right here we have doshi. Another word that uses the same kanji, which I've written in red, is 動物. 動物. D-O-U, or D-O with a line over it. Butsu. A fu, ha, hi, fu, he, ho. Fu with a chong, chong, with a den, den. Okay. 動物. butsu. B-U-T-S-U, butsu. Dobutsu is animal. It means animal. So it's a very good word to know, dobutsu. Okay? Later we will learn the names of some animals. I'll have a chart with dobutsu, and this will be at the head of the chart. I'll just go ahead and write the kanji. Of course you don't need to be able to write this. Look at that, it's a mess. But sooner or later you should at least be able to recognize it. Okay, doshi, dobutsu. Jidosha, jidosha. Do you remember what jidosha is? Automobile, jidosha, jidosha. Okay. Also, kuruma, kuruma. Go back and we'll do this little pen thing. This time I'm going to choose green ink. Okay, and I'm going to put this is pronounced kuruma, 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 kuruma. When it's all alone in a sentence, you see all the hiragana around it, and suddenly this lone kanji appears, you know that it's pronounced kuruma. When it's in a group of other kanjis, it's pronounced sha. I also told you parking lot, chushajo, chushajo, chushajo. Parking lot, sha, kuruma, jidosha. So jidosha is a very commonly used term, just as common as automobile. And it has the same type of feeling. Automobile is more formal than car. So jidosha, jidosha. And it's something that moves by itself. This ji is self, a self-moving vehicle. Self-moving vehicle. We have jiko shokai, jiko shokai, right? Jiko shokai. Kyou wa doshi no shokai shimasu. Doshi no shokai shimasu. I'm introducing verbs today. Shokai shimasu. That's a verb. There's a whole bunch of suru verbs, which we will get to later, but I said already, I've told you benkyou suru and shokai suru. Kyou wa doshi o shokai shimasu. I'm going to be introducing verbs today. Okay, doshi. Ato wa jidou hanbaiki, jidou hanbaiki. Remember the whole bank of jidou hanbaiki that I showed to you? Next to the chushajo in Shibuya? Shibuya with the giant crossing, the scramble kosaten, right, kosaten, with the zebra crossings, and I've forgotten how to say zebra crossing. It's not a word that I used very often. Kosaten I often used, but which is intersection, but pedestrian crossing and pedestrian bridge. The word pedestrian, hodo, anyway, it doesn't matter. Okay, so jidou hanbai. So these are all words that use this kanji. But when it's a verb, it's pronounced ugoku, ugoku. Ugoku means to move, ugoku. Ugoitemasu. Ima wa te o ugoitemasu. Te o ugoitemasu. I'm moving my hands. Ugoitemasu. Te ugoite. Te form. That's the te form. And then imasu is the progressive tense. I'm doing it now. Okay? The point I want to make today is that the so-called present tense, actually in Japanese grammar they call it the non-past tense, because it can be used to talk about a habitual action. The same is actually true in English. I think it's a little bit of a mistake to call move, I move, he moves, she moves. It's a little bit of a mistake to be calling that the present tense. It's not used to denote something that's going on right now. It's used to talk about a habitual action. I go to the store every day. I go to the store this afternoon, you could conceivably say. A little bit of a nuance there that isn't present in Japanese. Ugoku is used to denote the present, the future tense. Ugokimasu, ugokimasu, ugoku, ugokimasu, ugokimasu. Okay? So, to move something is ugoku. And here's how it's written normally. Ugoku, ugoku. I think I'll get out my pen one more time. We'll choose purple, and we will circle that baby. Circle it, circle it, circle it, circle it. And we will put little arrows to point to the kanji. And then the part of the kanji that gets modified, gets changed, is this. So it's left in hiragana. This is almost all verbs have a kanji element to them, with the part that gets changed out to the side. Ugoku, ugoku, ugoku. So we have ugoku. I've highlighted the ku in red to show you that that will be changing as the verb is conjugated. Ugokimasu, ugokimasen, ugokimasen deshita, ugokimashita, ugokimashou, ugokimashou. Okay, let's move it. それを動きましょう。今はここに置いてあるんですが、ここからここまでにこのコップを動きましょう。動きました。動きました。ここからここまで動いたんですね。動きました。動く。動きましょう。カップを動きましょう。この場所はちょっと良くない。You're not going to talk about a cup and moving a cup, but you might talk about the furniture in your house. それを動きましょう。これを、you could, there's other words to say besides 動く, but anyway, 動く, 動く. Okay. And I just want to, this is a good word to know, 動く. It's not one that they teach in beginning Japanese very often, but why not learn it? 動く. Yomu. Do you remember yomu? Yomimasu. 本を読みます。この本を読みます。なんかいい本を選べましょう。いいのはないんだな。A History of India. これを読んでいます。今は読んでいます。この本を読みました。前は読みました。半分ぐらいを読んだ。半分ぐらいを読みました。半分。半分。half of it. 半分。半分読みました。ちょっと諦めた。It was interesting while it lasted, but I got a little tired of it. Indian history is a very interesting subject. 読む。飲む。飲む。これは、からですけれども、飲む要素を見ます。ちょっと、OK。飲んでる、飲んでる、飲んでる、飲んでる。実際は水を飲みたいと思います。水を飲みたいと思います。I'd like to get some water. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to stay with you guys. 飲む。Ao. This was one of the first things we learned because it's from the A, I, U, E, O column of the hiragana chart. A, I, U, E, O. Ao means to meet somebody. 会います。会いましょう。また会いましょう。また会いましょう。食べる。Today we're going to talk about the word 食べる。食べる。And it means to eat. 食べる。We'll talk about that later. 寝る means to sleep. 洗う。これは私の顔です。この全体は頭です。これは頭です。この前の部分は顔です。顔です。目を2つあります。これは私の目です。目。これは、これらは、これら2つがあるんですから、これらと言えるんですが、You don't have to say これら。You could just say これ。But これらは目です。これらは。So onto これ, you can add a ra to make it plural. It's not frequently done. これらは目です。2つの目があります。人間は2つの目があります。ほとんどの動物も目を2つあります。 Hotondo no. Subete no doubutsu desu ka? I said most animals have two eyes. But actually, isn't it all animals have two eyes? Maybe some of the lower don't even have eyes at all. I don't know. Anyway, we're not doing a science class here. Arao. Cow. This is my cow with the two eyes, the nose, the mouth. Hana, kuchi, hige. So this sensei no hige. Kono hige wa, this is rather new to me. You saw my picture from a year ago. I didn't have this hige. Kami no ke, me, hana. We're going to show a picture of the face in a short while. Not today. So, kao araimasu. Mayasu okimasu. We're going to talk about getting up in the morning, washing the face, eating breakfast, eating lunch, etc. And miru. Miru is to see. Okay, so these are our verbs that we're going to be looking at today. Doshi o korekara benkyou shimasu. Korekara doshi no benkyou o shimasu. Doshi no benkyou shimasu. Doshi no benkyou o shimasu. When you're talking about verbs, usually you need to talk about time. Is it happening now? If it's happening now, you use one form of the verb. Was it happening yesterday? If it was happening yesterday, you use another form of the verb. Will it be happening tomorrow? So time is essential. Maybe, for example, I do something habitually. I get up every day at a certain time. So the question of time becomes critical. What is written here on my screen? It's written, the meaning of this word is when. Itsu. So we're going to be talking about itsu. So there's another word that you need to learn. We've learned do for how. Do desu ka? How are you? Do, D-O-U, or D-O with a line across it. Do desu ka? Do deshita ka? 今までのレッスンはどうですか? How's the lesson going for you? どうですか? どこありますか? どこですか? これはどこですか? 手の上です。このコップは手の上にあります。手、okay. どこ? And 何? What? So, いつ, どこ, and 何. So, いつ and 何 are two of exception question words. Most of the question words start with do, but いつ and 何 do not begin with do. Okay, いつ. So, いつ. Every day. Every day is 毎日. Now, this is not M-A-E, which means in front of, it's M-A-I, 毎日. And nichi means day. We're going to learn today, 日曜日. We have nippon. In front of the hon, the chi turns into a double P. Why, I don't know, but anyway, nippon, nichi. So nichi is a word that's used very frequently in Japanese. This is mainichi. Mainichi. Kanadazu asagohan o tabemasu. Mainichi asagohan o tabemasu. I eat breakfast every day. Mainichi asagohan o tabemasu. Sometimes. Tokidoki. Tokidoki is an interesting word. It means from time to time. Toki means time. Toki. And then it's repeated twice. The second T gets changed into a D. Tokidoki means sometimes. 普通はパンを食べますが、時々ご飯を食べます。普通は、普通 means usually. 普通はパンを食べます。Pan is bread. It's like the French word pain, P-A-I-N in French. I think it was brought to Japan by the Portuguese. It's also a Portuguese word, pan. パンを食べます。I think you may use this in India, I'm not sure. Pan. Yesterday, 昨日、今日 is now. 今日は動詞の勉強をしています。しています。毎日します。今はしています。It's going on right now, so we use a different form of the verb する。昨日、明日、And the month is 月。This one you don't really need to know right now. We know 1月、2月、3月. It uses the same kanji. It means moon. It also means moon. お月様. The moon is often exalted by using the word sama. Normally, a normal person is san desu. Whatever your name is, Rajesh-san, whatever, Joe-san, Aki-san, Akira-san. Okay. If I want to raise you high, if you're like a king or something, I would call you sama. So the moon is often referred to as Otsuki-sama. It's kind of made into a person, something worthy of worship, Otsuki-sama. There's various ways to say moon, tsuki. Okay. And day is he. Looks like hi. It's pronounced he. I just said that day is nichi, every day, mainichi. And he is also similar to fire. So there's a little bit of gray area here that you'll just have to get used to over time. But I at least want to expose you to these words. He. What time? Nanji. Nanji desu ka? Ima wa nanji desu ka? Ima wa choudo 11時ですね。今は11時です。11. So we have the 時間。今は何時ですか ?1 時、2時、3時、4時。Not 4時, but 4時。5時、6時、7時、8時、9時、10時、11時、12時。これは偶然でした。This is just a coincidence. 偶然でした。ちょうど11時ですね。それはいいことですね。Because it's not always on the hour, is it? Sometimes it's 2:30. So 2 o'clock is 2時, and you could say 30分. So the measure for hours is ji. And ji comes from the word jikan. Jikan is the word for hour. But when it's used for telling time, it's just ji all alone without the kan on it. 1時、2時、3時、3時、30分. So the word for minute is fun. F-U-N. F-U-N. Fun. But before ichi or before ju, it becomes juppun. We had that chart. I don't know if you took screenshots of it, but later we will return to those charts, I think, for the funkan. Okay. 30分 or 2時半. Remember the book? 半分. Half of it, 半分. 2時半. 今は 2時半 desu. 2時半 desu. And this is how it's written in kanji. Okay? Just for your reference. 2時半. 10時10分. So we have 30分, 10分. So 10 after 10, it becomes 分, 10分, 1分, 2分, 3分. I think it's 3分. Could be 3分, but I guess I don't say it very often, do I? 2時3分. I think I'd say 3分. 4分, 4分, 5分, 6分, 7分, 8分. So some of these words turn into 分. So this is 10時10分. 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 Notice there's a chisai u for ju, and then 分. Chisai tsu. So 10時10分. 10時10分. Okay. これは2時10分前. 2時10分前. And in this day of digital clocks and things, we don't say 10 to 2 all that frequently. We would probably say 1:50. 1時50分. 1時50分. But if we're looking at a traditional clock, we would say 2時10分前. 2時10分前. Okay, so these are various ways to specify the time. This will be very useful when we're talking about verbs. So you can take a screenshot of this if you'd like. I'm going to move on to the next screen. Itsu. Okay. Now we're going to learn the days of the week. That's another convenient way to specify time. Now I often ask people to learn the kanji when we're doing the days of the week. The days of the week are the 5 basic elements. The 5 elements are fire and water and wood and metal and earth. Those are the 5 basic elements. This is by Chinese tradition. Indian tradition might be different, but the Chinese tradition is fire, water, wood, metal, and earth. Those are the 5 days. There's 7 days. The first day of the week is Monday. And just like Monday in English is Moon Day, in Japanese, that's the kanji for moon. I think I will actually write again. I didn't plan to do this, but I just want to show you the kanji for moon. The original kanji for moon was written like this. Okay. And then to distinguish a little bit, they put little lines like this in there. Just to maybe, and so it got stylized into this for moon. Okay. We've already learned the word for day, which is pronounced nichi, as in nippon, or nihon, nichi, mainichi. Okay. The yo is a very strange kanji that I don't think it's even used in Chinese. If it is, it's very seldom used. And in Japanese, it's only used when you're writing a day of the week. So it's up to you to learn that. I don't like that particular thing, but that's the way it is. Many things in this world that we don't like. So Moon Day, Getsuyobi. Okay. And I've highlighted the getsu in green. I said that the word for green, this is otsuki-sama. Otsuki-sama. Tsuki. So the Japanese reading for moon is tsuki. The Chinese reading for moon is getsu. getsu. But when it's talking about months, it gets changed to gatsu. Ichigatsu, nigatsu, sangatsu. So these little subtleties that you have to learn when you're learning a foreign language. All foreign languages have little exceptions, little idiosyncrasies. This is the challenge of learning a foreign language. And this is why Japanese is said by the United States Department of State to be the most challenging language for English speakers to learn, along with Chinese, and I think there's one other language that's very challenging. I don't remember what they are. The Department of State has ranked all languages. Spanish is easy for English speakers to learn. Even though English is a Germanic language, German's more difficult than Spanish or French for English speakers to learn, because we have so many Latin words in English. You know, the French invaded England back in, I think, the year I remember was always 1066, I believe, was when William the Conqueror invaded England. And so the French was a spoken language in England for many years. So we have many French words in English. So it makes it easy for us to learn French, even though English is said to be a Germanic language. And the story of Japanese is very similar. So many of the loan words came from China. And so the Japanese, it's difficult for the Japanese to learn Chinese, but probably less difficult than learning English. Getsuyobi, kayobi, kayobi. Okay, let's erase these lines. And ka is the Chinese word for fire. I just said that he can be both sun and fire. So he is the native Japanese pronunciation for fire. When I lived in Japan 30 years ago, I was a cigarette smoker. So, hi ga arimasu ka? Hi ga arimasu ka? Do you have a light? Hi ga arimasu ka? Hi ga arimasu ka? Hi o chotto kashite kureru? Could you lend me some fire? Hi. Raita ga arimasu ka? Raita. A lighter, cigarette lighter. But hi ga arimasu ka? Hi. But this is ka. Kayobi. Getsuyobi, kayobi. And look how easy these kanji are to write. It kind of looks like fire. If you use your imagination, it kind of looks like fire. Oh, did I do that again? Keep. Okay. Ah! Okay. Days of the week. Getsuyobi, kayobi, kayobi. Okay. Suyobi. Sui is water. The Japanese pronunciation is mizu. Mizu o nomitai to omoimasu. Mizu. Mizu. I'm going to go get some mizu. I'll be right back. Mizu o chotto tori ni ikimasu. Mizu. Mizu. Mizu o torimasu. Mizu o torimasu. これは魔法瓶ですね。魔法瓶。魔法瓶。魔法瓶の中に水があります。水があります。水。ちょっと先生の喉が渇いている。喉が渇いている。My throat is dry. 喉が渇いている。だから水を飲みます。だから therefore 水を飲みます。 I will drink water. 今は飲んでいます。これから from this point on 水を飲みます。じゃあ飲んでる。よかった。よかった。That was good. That was, it's not really, it means that the situation is good. It doesn't really mean that the water was good. If I was going to say the water was good, I'd say おいしかった。おいしかった。気持ちが良かった。気持ちが良かった。The feeling was good. 本当に喉が渇いていた。喉が渇いていた。じゃあ、水 is the Japanese word for water, but the Chinese pronunciation is sui. And sui is used in so many Japanese words. For example, your plumbing is called suido. Suido. There's many words with sui in it. Suyobi, mokuyobi. Mokuyobi is the word for tree. It can be either tree or wood. And it's just like the nihon, the hon in nihon, except the hon in nihon has a little line down here at the bottom. And this is like a picture of a tree. Oh, dare I use the pen again? It's just like a picture of a tree. Here's the branches, the top of the tree with the trunk, maybe a few branches hanging down. And then the roots of the tree are here. So this is the picture of a tree. But when it's pronounced moku, it means wood. The word for tree is ki. Ki. Very simple ki. It's very much like the word for like reiki or kiotsukete. Ki in that case means to take care. It's a totally different kanji, a totally different word. But the word for tree is ki. In the days of the week, it's pronounced mokuyobi. Getsuyobi, kayobi, suyobi, mokuyobi. Kinyobi. Kin is metal. Kinyobi. Doyobi. Do is earth. Okay. And finally, nichiyobi. Nichiyobi. The first kanji, right here, this kanji here is pronounced he. I'm sorry, nichi. And this one is pronounced he, or since it's after the yo, it turns into b. Nichiyobi. So all of these are pronounced b, but in this case, this one is pronounced nichi. See what a strange language Japanese is. Okay, I think I have a few more minutes to continue. I'm in good shape today. You can always pause the video and come back tomorrow. Do whatever you want to do. I know that I should break these up into smaller parts, but これから食べるという動詞を覚えます。食べる. Remember what I said 食べる was? To eat, right? 食べる. 食べます. 食べません. 食べました. 食べませんでした. 食べる. Okay. 朝ごはん. 朝ごはん. 朝ごはんを食べます. 朝ごはんを食べます. 朝ごはん is breakfast. Remember we saw asa no aisatsu, the morning aisatsu, asa no aisatsu. This is asa gohan. Asa gohan, breakfast. Hiru gohan. Hiru gohan o tabemasu. Nanji tabemasu ka? Nanji tabemasu ka? Nanji tabemasu ka? まあ普通は1時に食べます。先生は1時に昼ご飯を食べます。1時に昼ご飯を食べます。食べる、食べます。晩ご飯。Remember, I said that the evening is yoru, but we say こんばんは and we say 晩ご飯。晩ご飯 is the evening meal. 晩ご飯ちょっと遅いですよ。先生が晩ご飯を食べるときは ちょっと遅いです。very late. 8時半ぐらい。8時半で食べる。8時半で食べる。I eat dinner at 8:30, which is rather late. Okay? And here I've written taberu in kanji. So when you see it, you have the taberu. The be doesn't change, but for some reason they've written out the be in hiragana. You always see it with a be on it, taberu. And taberu is a very easy verb. To put a mas onto taberu, all you do is drop the ru, taberu. Remember how I put all those endings in colors in the previous slide? So this one is taberu. Just drop that ru and add mas. So taberu is an easy verb to conjugate. Taberu. Tabemasu ka? Hiru gohan o tabemasu ka? Minasan, hiru gohan tabemasu ka? Asa gohan tabemasu ka? Ban gohan o tabemasu ka? Many people skip breakfast. Asa gohan o tabenai hito ga oi desu ne. 特に今の世界にみんなもうとっても忙しい。仕事もある。学校もある。ちょっと忙しくて、朝ごはんを食べる時間はありません。朝ごはんを食べる時間。So 食べる can be used to directly modify a noun. 朝ごはんを食べる時間. 時間 is, I said hour, can also mean time. There's no time to eat breakfast. 朝ごはんを食べる時間がありません。It's not there, right? We have ある for inanimate objects or abstract ideas, and いる for a living person, right? Okay. じゃあ朝ごはんを食べますか？食べません。いつ食べますか？いつ食べますか？Okay. いつ食べますか？ You can answer these using the clocks. I said that I eat 朝ごはん。だいたい8時か9時に食べます。先生は8時か9時に食べます。か means or. It's also a question word. 8時か9時に食べます。After time, we always use the particle に。いつ食べますか? After いつ you don't use に。Just いつ食べますか? 8時に食べます。Okay. 昼ごはんは、先生はだいたい1時に食べます。1時に食べます。その時間が変わりません。時々早く食べます。時々 sometimes 早く食べます。early 早く early 時々遅く食べます。late 遅く。普通はほとんどの時は1時に食べます。12時半に食べる日もある。12時半に食べる日 days. Here I use the word 日 for days. 12時半に食べる日もある。1時半に食べる日もあります。So, that's the way to make a complex sentence. My first verb is left in the plain form, the dictionary form, taberu, and the final verb uses the mas form so that I can be polite to whoever I'm talking to. It's the polite form. Okay. いつ食べますか? いつ寝ますか? 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 いつ顔を洗いますか? いつ朝ごはんを食べます? いつ学校へ行きます? 学校, remember 学校? The picture of the Japanese textbook from the Monbusho had a picture of a 学校 with a toke. Do you remember what time it was? 8時でしたね。8時でしたね。その学校の上にあった時計に8時に書いてありましたんですね。8時。Okay. 学校へ行きます。勉強します。いつ勉強しますか？ When do you study? いつ勉強しますか？ So we're going to be practicing these structures for the next several lessons, I think, especially at the rate I go. Okay. 何を食べますか？何を食べますか？何を食べますか？ And what does this mean? I'm not going to tell you the meaning. I think you should know by now. Notice that it's nani instead of nan. After o, before o, it's always nani. Nanji desu ka? Nanji, nani o. You can almost feel why it's nanji. Nani-ji is a little difficult to say, nanji. But nano is a little difficult to say, so nani o. Nani o tabemasu ka? Nani o tabemasu ka? ご飯を食べます。ご飯を食べます。ご飯。これはご飯ですね。かわいいでしょう。かわいい。This is a cute bowl of rice. ニコニコしてます。ニコニコしてます。笑顔ですね。ちょっとスマイルがありますね。スマイル。目は2つありますですね。鼻もありますですね。そのちっちゃい点は鼻ですね。これは子供用なボールなんですね。子供用なボール。子供、child。子供用 for 子供用なボールです。ボール。ボール is bowl. 茶碗 This can also be called a 茶碗 which means literally teacup. Rice is usually eaten in a bowl in Japan. You use chopsticks, but sometimes rice is a little bit difficult to move from the table up to your mouth. It might fall off. So it's very polite to hold the bowl. It's just the right size for your palm. I use my left hand to eat. That's not traditionally very good, but I'm a left-hander. I use hashi. I use hashi to eat my rice. そのご飯に何がありますか？これは何でしたか？覚えてますか？覚えてますか？ Do you remember? これは何ですか？梅干しですね。梅干し。梅干し。これはご飯です。ご飯。ご飯。ご飯 is written like this. ご飯。ご飯。何を食べますか？ラーメンを食べます。ラーメンを食べます。そのラーメン。そのラーメン。このラーメン。そのラーメン。そのラーメンはおいしそうですね。おいしそう。It looks delicious. おいしい。おいしい。おいしい is an adjective. It's an E adjective, so it ends with a long E sound. おいしい。But I take off one of the E's and I say おいしそう。おいしそう。そう。そうですね。どうですか？そう。こう。こうします。こうします。You do it in this way. こうします。おいしそう。It looks delicious. That ramen looks delicious. そのラーメンはおいしそうですね。これは何ですか？これは何ですか？これ覚えてるでしょうね。それは箸ですか？箸ですか？箸 I think it's hashi. Don't you? Do you remember? Like I said, I don't always distinguish between the two ways. One is for chopsticks and the other one is for bridge. It's really only through context, but apparently the Japanese distinguish between hashi and hashi. Okay. これは卵です。これは卵です。これは肉です。肉。卵と肉と野菜。野菜。その野菜の色は何ですか？野菜の色は何ですか？野菜の色は緑です。これは緑色です。緑。 They don't say ao, they say ao shingo, but they say midori. この卵の芯はオレンジ色ですね。オレンジ色。We often say it's 黄色, but it looks orange to me. 本当に美味しいラーメンですね。美味しいラーメン。なんか熱いですね。ちょっとこの何というんですか? I want to say 煙, but 煙 means smoke. Musu? I don't know. There's steam rising up off the. I need to go to the dictionary. I suppose we could do that right now, but we're running out of time. I don't remember what time I started, but I have a feeling that I've gone past an hour. But today is going to be a long lesson. The last lesson was 10 minutes short. This may be 10 minutes long. これはラーメンです. And it's interesting to note that ramen is written in katakana. That's because it's a Chinese word that's too much effort to write. これは麺です. Just, I forgot to tell you, これは麺です. Men. Men means noodles. Ramen, I think it means pooled noodles. I'm not sure. There's also old noodles. I know lo mein, we talk about lo mein. I don't know if you talk about lo mein in India. At a Chinese restaurant in America, we would go to have lo mein. Okay, but this is ramen. Ramen. And the ramen is world famous as a Japanese dish. Ramen. Ramen o tabemasu. Ramen o tabemasu. Ramen ga daisuki desu. Daisuki desu. Ramen ga suki desu ne. Suki. I like ramen. Daisuki desu. I love ramen. ラーメンを大好きですね。美味しそうなね。ちょっと食べたいな。食べたいな。I'd love to have some. Listen to those expressions. Japanese is good for having expressions at the end of the sentence. 食べたいな。美味しそうね。よ is another one that's used. これはカレーライスです。カレーライス。カレーライス。これはライスですね。ここでご飯というんですね。でもカレーライスはインドから入ってきました。カレーライスはインドから入ってきました。インドのカレーとは全然似てないですね。It doesn't look at all like Indian curry. Curry is kare rice. And this is a set meal. You can buy this meal. It's one of the cheapest meals to buy. If you're on the run, they have so many stands in the train station where you can just stand there and eat your bowl of curry rice. Curry rice is typically eaten with a spoon. Spoon de taberu. Ramen wa hashi de taberu. It's interesting because you want to eat, you pick out you let it cool down a little bit and you eat your ramen with hashi. There's a porcelain spoon that is also provided. You maybe either drink the soup or you can use a porcelain spoon to take the soup. But traditionally, ramen is eaten with chopsticks. Kare rice is eaten with a spoon. And this is a very interesting kind of a pickle. It's a little bit sweet. So the curry can have varying degrees of spiciness. Most Japanese don't like to eat very spicy food, so it's fairly mild. But you can order it extra spicy with a few extra things on the side. Typically, curry rice is made with beef. But with most curry rices that you find at the train station, there's very little meat in it. I prefer my curry rice with chicken. And of course, since coming to India, I've become a vegetarian. Kare rice. Kare rice. Once again, written in katakana. And before I leave today, I want to just present one more food item to you. And this is called tsukiyaki. 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 And I think that we'll start the next lesson with this. You can see that tsukiyaki has eggs. Do you remember how to say eggs? Usually there's a raw egg and you dip this, I'm not sure what this is because I think that tsukiyaki is usually cooked on a griddle. It's cooked in front of you. You can cook it yourself, and it's usually on a griddle. Because there's shabu shabu, which is very similar to this, but it's boiled in the soup. You have a soup at the end. But with the tsukiyaki, I think you cook it on a griddle. So I'm not sure what this is for. Maybe this is shabu shabu, and I got the wrong picture. You often will dip the cooked meat into the egg. So the egg, you'll take your hashi and scramble the egg a little bit. Tamago, tamago. Niku, niku is meat. And this is gyuniku, beef. These are yasai, vegetables, yasai. Iro iro na yasai ga arimasu. ちょっとこのカクカクのカク You know, I used to say kaku kaku because I did the onyomi. There's another word for saying variety. まあいろいろな野菜があります。いろいろな But I'm not going to say the names of the individual yasai because I don't know them right now. Okay. これはお酒です。お酒。お酒。This is 日本酒。日本酒。This is a type of rice wine. So I've tamago, yasai, 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 niku, gyuniku, osake. And here's 3 more food items. And with that, we will end the class. I love when we talk about food. I like Japanese food. I like Indian food. I like all kinds of food. So, with the next lesson, we'll start the slide here. じゃあ、今日のレッスンはどうでしたか？楽しかったでしょう？楽しかったでしょう？楽しかっただと思いますが、どうぞまた次回会いましょう。さようなら、さようなら、さようなら。